You know, it's crazy to me. The Gillette commercial, you saw that, you know, toxic masculinity.
Yes.
I was talking about how I just want an ad that tells me what you're selling. Right. And then I was skating outside the other day, and it was like a Harry's commercial, and it was like, "Hi, this is Harry's. We sell razors. They cost $2. You can order them online. They have 3 blades." And I'm like, that's great. I'm going to go buy. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you. I'll go buy it.
Well, you know, the left has this way of creating the atmosphere that they say they're afraid of, or that they're working against. I mean, I actually believe that they've created a lot of racists just this year based off of the activity they've engaged in. But they're also terribly afraid of going back in time. They're afraid of that for racial minorities. They're afraid of that for women. They're afraid of that for gays. They're for, you know, us living in another era. And what you just said, it actually, you know, maybe our culture will get pushed into this almost like television commercials from the 1950s, when it really was like that before. Like, you know, buy cigarettes. They're delicious and they're good for your health. You know, I mean, but it just tells you what the product is.
Right. Raisin Bran. It's bran and raisins. Right. Pour milk on it. Right. Eat it for breakfast.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I think those are very like male centric commercials. Guys are just like, no BS, just tell me what it is. But they've tried to manipulate and catch people. And so I think ads just used to be, they didn't know how to do it. Now they've figured out you can have like a chinchilla screech in your face and Quiznos will sell sub sandwiches or something. And it worked. So, you know,
but it's true. I mean, people are sick and tired of watching TV, watching commercials, and having to question their morality. And am I a good person? Am I a bad person? Am I supposed to be trans? I just want to buy milk. Do I have to question my gender? Like I
just want milk. Yeah. No, it's coming to the point where it's religion. It's like turning on the TV and saying like, "Have you confessed your sins today?"
Right.
The toxic masculinity ad. It's the you know. A lot of people talk about, I'm sure you've heard of Get Woke, Go Broke.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of circumstances where it's actually get broke, try woke, where these companies are failing because they're obsolete or because their marketing strategy was bad. And they're like, let's try wokeness.
Yes. A lot of celebrities are doing that.
Right.
Celebrities on the brink of irrelevance are now, you know, out with the Black Lives Matter signs and taking their selfies for Instagram at the marches and stuff. And it's also, but there's also kind of like the sad kind of element of it where, you know, I've been talking about this a lot too. A lot of these people, when you're walking down the street, you feel like this Black Lives Matter movement is so popular and well accepted. Because a sign here, a sign here, a sign here. But the sign has really become a virtue signal, I think, saying, please don't smash my windows.
Exactly.
You know, and so I think that there are a lot less people who support the cause than we think, but they're just afraid of getting looted.
It's true. I think so. Have you ever been to the Bay Area?
Unfortunately, I
have. And you go to Berkeley, you go to Oakland, you see the signs all over the windows.
Yes.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, but they probably believe in it. You don't think?
I don't think so, no.
In Berkeley?
In Berkeley, there are a lot of stores that do. But I went to a bar, and they told me straight up the anti-Trump poster they had was just so that no one smashed their windows. And they did not agree with it.
Wow.
And we were having a candid conversation. So I think, sure, you're in Berkeley down the street, you know, by the university, you're going to find a bunch of businesses that do believe it. Some of these bookstores are like straight up anarchist bookstores, but there are a lot of businesses that you're like, it's run by, you know, Chinese immigrants that don't engage in American politics. And I'm like, I'm not sure they care all that much. They're just saying, leave us alone.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they care, even if, you know, like for us opposing it either. They're just like, whatever, who cares? Put the sign up.
I don't know why this popped into my mind, but when I was doing a rally in Michigan, I think a big group of Black Lives Matter protesters came, and they were about 50% white, as they tend to, which is actually a pretty low ratio. It's usually a lot more than that. But there was there were several black people in my group. And so this black man went over to one of these white guys holding his Black Lives Matter sign, and the white guy's shouting at him, you know, because he's got a Trump hat on, you know, and he's got like his MAGA gear, and the white guy's like, "What are you doing, bruh? What are you doing, bruh?" You know, and finally the white guy says, he's like, this is just so classic. I wish I had this on film. In fact, I might actually. But he's there with his sign, and he goes, "I'm doing this for you, bruh. I'm doing this for you, bruh." And the guy's like, you can go home. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Make America great again. I'm good.
These activists, in my opinion, are white supremacists.
Yeah.
They think that they've invented everything. I mean, we've talked about several times, Robin DiAngelo from White Fragility, you know, the author.
Yes.
She says she's a racist.
In the book.
Yeah. Why are we taking our cues from these people?
I haven't read the book, but I've read a lot. We have a mutual friend, Carlin, and she kind of broke the book down in chapters on Twitter and was posting them. And there's so many anecdotes in that book where I was kind of shocked at the things that the woman says and reveals. You know, just like when I walk into a room and I see black people, I become very uncomfortable. I clutch my purse. I want to, and I'm like, that's not a normal reaction.
That's right. Why would anyone take advice from someone who's an avowed racist?
Right.
Who would say something like that? It's like, dude, listen, you're the one who needs a talking to, not me.
Correct.
I grew up second generation mixed race, friends of all different races, and I didn't experience any of this until I went to Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
Where they literally segregated everybody.
Yeah.
Like, this is, this race here, Asians go here, the black people go here, the Mexicans go there. And I was angry. I was like, This is the most like disgusting thing I've ever seen.
Right.
I couldn't imagine this happening in my neighborhood. You get beat up if you tried doing something like that.
Yeah.
Because we're all friends with each other.
Yeah. I'm actually, I would say on the opposite end of the spectrum. I love any opportunity when I'm like the only white person in the room, especially if I'm giving an address or something like that. It's one of my favorite things in the world when I'm addressing an audience and it's racial minority majority or, something like that. Because for me, it's a challenge that I want to end that night knowing that I thoroughly won over and charmed everyone in that room based off of what I had to. There's nothing scary about it for me. I love it. I love it because I'm like, by the time I'm done, I am going to be the most popular white boy in the whole. They are going to love me. So it doesn't even occur to me to be like, oh my God, there's black people in the room. I got to run. But it's not my thing.
For her, it is. For all these activists, I have to wonder. Are you familiar with Reset the Clock, the meme?
Mm-mm.
It's about male feminists being rapists. Like, for some reason.
You just said a lot of funny words in one
right,
thing.
Right,
okay,
right.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the gag is kind of like, it's like, oh, we got another one, reset the clock, like days since we've had a male feminist exposed. And somebody wrote this, it was really fascinating. They said the reason why feminists are so, feminist is because the reason why they think all men are bad is because they're surrounded by male feminists. They're not hanging out with us.
Right.
The feminists, we hang out with regular people. There's feminists are like a fringe. But when you have this very small group of people that have these extremist ideologies, granted, they're gaining a lot of traction in mainstream stuff. When they're only surrounded by abusive men who are pretending to care about their cause to try and sleep with them, they're going to say all men are bad because the only men they can see are bad.
Well, I think that's a reinforcement. But don't you think, my opinion is that everybody has problems. We all have struggles, but only certain of us get told that those problems and struggles are because of the color of our skin, our sexual orientation, or our gender. So we all worry sometimes about how we're going to pay our bills, or how am I going to get a job, or am I good looking enough? Am I whatever enough? Whatever. But if people are telling you, well, the reason why you feel like you're not good looking enough is because you're black, or the reason why you don't have enough money is because you're black, or the reason why you're worried about this is because you're gay. It's the same problems that we all have, but people are being told it's different because of them.
They don't want you to solve your problems.
Well, sure.
They want to be the solution.
That's how they control you.
Exactly.
Yes.
If you were to tell somebody you are powerful, no one can hold you back, stand defiant, and you can do anything.
Right.
Then you can't control them.
Correct.
They know what they can do. For me, I think it's a big difference between why it's the Democrats and the Republicans. Republicans, personal responsibility, individualism. The Democrats, collective responsibility. You're responsible for your ancestors if we don't like you, but others aren't. And, we're going to act for the collective's best interests. Don't defy us.
What's your view on privilege?
In what capacity?
Do you think it exists in any forms, or do you think?
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, right. Sorry, that was silly. No, I mean, what forms do you think it exists in, and how relevant are the forms?
So I think what the left doesn't understand is when you take someone who's not very smart, and I mean this without not to be disrespectful, they can't analyze root causes. They can only see the surface. So they have to wonder why it is that, say, a white person tends to have certain privileges. Mm-hmm. And so they say, it must be because he looks that way, right? That's the racist approach. Racists can't see past skin color.
Right.
But if you actually do a deep analysis, there is majority privilege. Humans have a tendency to feel safer around people who look similar to them. And I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about literally everything. It's why you'll see a man and a woman holding hands walking down the street wearing like very similar clothes and the same. You know what I mean? You've seen that before, right?
Yeah.
They did a study and found that They showed a bunch of pictures to people and asked them to rate the most attractive. And one of them was their own face that was like detexturized a little bit. They viewed themselves as more attractive, the more familiar it is to them. And that's just, I think it was Brett Weinstein who talks about this as that's why we must strive to make sure we overcome our inherent biases and things like this. So I do believe there's privileges, but I believe the better way to put it is majority privilege. If you were to, I've been in a bunch of countries where you would not have privilege. Look, go to Asia. I tell you this, man. So I am part Korean. And this is one of the reasons why I absolutely detest the intersectional left, because it's, if you're mixed or if you're Asian, you're Schrodinger's, or, person of color, whatever, they don't know how to deal with you. But South Korea in general, they're very racist. They're extremely racist. I don't know about everything having to do with Japan, but I'm pretty sure that you can't function in Japan. Like, you would struggle to get a job. You would struggle. I don't think you can even open a bank account as a white person.
Wow.
Yeah. It's because these are ethno-national countries. They're very isolated. And even outside of this, go to Sweden. I interviewed someone in Sweden who said, it was an American woman. She married a Swedish man. She spoke fluent Swedish with an accent. She couldn't get a job because they knew she wasn't Swedish. It's just about, are you a part of the majority? Otherwise, people have a bias against you. I think that exists. So look, there's a lot of issues that come up where I'm like, I'm center left, especially on like some social issues. But what I think the left is doing right now, the leftists, is they're not offering up real solutions to the problems, so they can control you, so they can take your resources, so you will be their foot soldier or their minion. If they actually told you the solution to many of these problems may have something to do with some social programs, but ultimately your responsibility,
right.
You're letting people go. You're saying, let me teach you how to start a fire. So I look at it this way. If I said, I am going to start a program where we teach people how to fish, that's a social program, but you're letting people go.
Yes.
What they do is they say, we're going to start a program where we have people fish and then we make the people come in here and do what we want, and we'll maybe give them one.
Right.
It's a big, big difference.
Yes.
So for me, I think it's probably a really good way to explain how I feel like I'm center left. I think if the government was like, we're going to teach you how to fish and then you're on your own and you can do this on your own, that's a social program that makes sense.
Agreed.
Especially with restrictions, so that, the way I often put it is, you can't just create a program and expect it to run forever. It has to have an end date, an expiration, and then you reassess and try other things if they're not working and update and renew. Instead, we don't do that. We just keep doing the same thing over and over again regardless. The welfare system never changes. It just gets worse and more money piled into it. But I think there's room for that. That's more of a center-left position. So anyway, yeah. So when it comes to privilege, people have privileges. I do believe that men have some privileges. Women have some privileges too. You want to have an argument about who has more? I don't think you'll ever solve that argument. I don't think anyone will ever be able to actually win as to who has it better, a man or a woman. Men will argue, they've been expendable for all throughout history. And they're, young men have very little societal value with no skills, no reproductive value. And young women have tremendous value to society because they're attractive and they can, have kids and stuff. You can argue those things are offensive and wrong. That's fine. The point is, you're going to have an argument all day and night about who is more privileged, and you'll never win. I think ultimately you're going to be dealt a hand of cards, and some people might get a really crappy hand, but I truly believe you can figure it out.
I agree.
If you believe in yourself, some people need help. I did. I lost my job at one point. I went on unemployment for quite a long time, and it allowed me to survive. And I had no idea what to do at this point. It was during, around the time of the financial crisis, and I was really young, and it was crap money. It was a couple $100 a month, but it kept me off the street. And then eventually I figured something out. I got a job. I started working at nonprofits, and I was like, that was awesome. But if you get people dependent on it, that's what I think the left is going for right now.
Right.
You can't solve your problems because you can never change the color of your skin. Therefore, join my group and enact my laws. It's a Trojan horse so they can get things like socialism and, just...
Well, and, unemployment is an insurance that we pay into as well. I mean, and I think that it does absolutely save and help a lot of people and it's temporary, it goes as long as it goes. But when you're talking about taking able-bodied, healthy, capable people and putting them on a cycle of welfare and food stamps and all of these different things, and then basically, it becomes not an addiction, but it just becomes a way of life, I think, for a lot of people. And then you start to, why would you be motivated to do anything
Right.
else? You just sort of get settled into your circumstance.
I think these programs can work, but they need a cultural component we don't have anymore. Like you said,
Right.
it becomes a way of life. I know
Yeah.
people like this. I lived in Seattle, and there were people who were like, here's the food banks you hit on which day. So they had a chart where like Monday is this neighborhood, Tuesday is this neighborhood. They created a system to go and get free stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to go get a job because I'm bored. I want to do something, and I want to choose for myself what I eat, not go to a food bank and just be like, give me that last can of beans. But for them, it was like, but it's so much easier to just get the last can of beans.
Right.
I was like, you do your thing. But because they never, the requirements for these food banks was walk on in. People had no incentive to do anything. They were given, and they built a life around it.
I have a friend. He's not really a friend anymore. Again, one of the 90% gone. But he's been on social programs for years and years, and it's so interesting because the way that they keep him on it, he's required to like go to certain doctor's appointments on a regular basis to continue to validate his condition, which keeps him on. So, I mean, it's like, it's a regular cycle that he has to go see a certain number of doctors every week, and which of course they pay for, but there's not even time to do any. And I've told him, I haven't talked to him in years, but I was like, wouldn't it be easier to just get a job? You know,
Right.
I mean, you have to leave and go sit in these appointments and get these doctors to do all this stuff. It's like, just go work, dude.
Right.
Like,
I think a lot of people don't know how, and I think it's the fault of our culture. I think schools do a terrible job. I was lucky enough to have an entrepreneurial family that instilled values in me for hard work and, building things on your own. But a lot of people don't know where to even start. So I get messages from people all the time saying, I really would love to do my own business. I don't even know how to start doing that. And I'm like, I'll tell you what I did. I just went off and started doing stuff.
yeah.
That's literally, I got on a bus, went to New York during Occupy Wall Street. I had a backpack. I slept outside. And then I just, from there, I worked at a nonprofit. I saved up some money. I bought a smartphone. I had a smartphone. Then so what I do tell people is, here's what you do. Figure out what you want to do. Find a job. Save money from that job. And then use that money you save to start funding your learning, like your learning period and your development period for your passion.
Right.
And then try and figure it out.
And
not everybody can.
And be willing to accept that you're going to fail probably many times along the way. I failed many, many, many times in my life, many times before I ended up in this position that I'm in now. And I certainly had never created a movement against the Democratic Party before. I didn't have a lot of experience, but after failing at many different things in my life, and I had no idea that WalkAway was going to become it started as a Facebook group, but when it really resonated with people and became really successful, I thought, there's something much larger here than just a testimonial campaign on Facebook. I think that this is something that's needed by the public at large, and so we created an organization, WalkAway Foundation, and started doing events. And some of the things we do hit, some of them don't hit. We learn from that and we move on, and that's kind of how life is. You just,
I think it's funny, when I first saw your viral video for WalkAway, there were a lot of people, when it got really big, they were saying that it was existing Trump supporters pretending they left the Democratic Party. It was astroturfed and stuff like that.
Russian bots.
And I was just like, but I actually know a lot of people, like a ton of people, like Jack Murphy. He wrote a book, Democrats Deplorable. 9 million people who voted for Obama voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And is there stories of the inverse? I don't know if you heard about this, but the DNC featured a man who claimed he was a lifelong Republican who is now, who's now going to vote Democrat, and they tracked down his information. Turns out he's a registered Democrat. He's not a Republican.
Do you know his name?
His name was Michael or something. And they were like, this guy donated to, and for like the last 5 elections voted for a Democrat or whatever.
Well, I don't know if you saw, I think it was on the first night of the convention, the Democrat convention, they did this like WalkAway ripoff.
That's what I'm talking about.
In the reverse.
Right.
And it was a compilation and everyone was like 67 and white. And they were like, I'm walking away from the Republican Party. And I was like, this is the word. Like, do you honestly think this is going to damage what I'm doing? This is like a joke. I mean, we actually have like young, hip, black people, gay people, white people, like, and then they just put up everything that they claim that we are. They're
right.
like, look at all the people leaving the Republican Party.
It's not true. Look, man, we're having fun. We laughed a whole lot on this show, and you see that somewhat with the left, but man, it is hard to tell a joke on the left. Mm-hmm. The comedians get canceled. Shows are getting canceled. Family Guy announced they can't do gay jokes anymore. I'm like,
They did?
Yeah, they did. They're like, we're not going to do that. Well, they're still doing Jewish jokes. It's the most ridiculous thing. It's like, dude, they're jokes. We like, if you've got a weak society that can't understand what a joke is, why is that our fault? Why is it everyone else's fault? It's a ridiculous notion that we must, or that we possibly could, prevent all offense.
It's bad enough that it exists in general, but when it happens even within the community itself, like I found it so disturbing when RuPaul announced that she was no longer going to use the term she-male on her show, because there was a segment, I don't know if you watch Drag Race.
No, I don't. You do?
Well, you're missing out. Yeah, it's a good show. But there was a segment at the beginning of every episode where she was doing a play on email, and they would say, "You've got she-male," and apparently trans activists, not actual transgender people, but like non-binary, gender fluid, angry leftists, like came down, and so now a drag queen can't say she-male anymore on a show about trans people and drag queens.
You hear about what happened in the UK where a woman posted rap lyrics to her Instagram? And
no.
I'm pretty sure she was black, and the N-word was in the lyrics. She got arrested for it.
Wow.
I hope we don't end up like the UK.
Well, one of my LGBT town halls last year, 4 out of 5 were actually canceled by the venue. We did find a new venue. We pressed on it happened. But we filed a lawsuit against the venue in New York City for canceling us just days before the event, because not only did they cancel us, but they canceled us because of leftist activists coming in and harassing the venue. But the leftists actually created a dossier so my panel was me, Mikey Harlow, and Blair White. And they went through all of our social media and found these, the evidence that we're white supremacists and anti-gay and all of this stuff, which for anybody in your audience who cares, all of our LGBT, all WalkAway town halls are available for people to watch for free on YouTube. So you can see the content that actually exists that they were trying to prevent from us. It's very tame. It's very productive. It's very positive, very uplifting in many ways. But anyway, we filed a lawsuit against the LGBT Center of New York City, who are the ones who canceled us. And just a couple of weeks ago, the judge in New York City threw out the case. And when she threw out the case, what she cited was that upon researching me and Blair and Mikey, whatever, she agreed that we were, and this is a quote unquote, engaging in anti-queer slurs, and therefore we were dangerous to our community, and basically that we had it coming. Now, queer is a slur. I mean, it is a word that people like myself. There's nobody on the center or on the right who wants to be called queer. The only people who are pushing for this word are LGBT radical activists. It's a disgusting word. I don't want to be called queer. But the judge said, a straight woman said that 2 gay men and a transgender woman were anti-queer, and therefore our case was thrown out of court.
I think you should file a human rights complaint.
That's a good idea.
When did this happen?
Oh, just weeks ago.
That's a human rights violation. If she actually used that word.
She did.
And she was straight?
She did.
Yeah, that I don't know how that works with the government, but when it comes to, I believe, general public accommodation in New York City, it's a $250,000 fine for a willful violation.
Well, perhaps I'll look into that angle of the case. But, I'm very curious to know what this judge would have to say about black people using the N-word. And, if she would throw a case out if a black person used the N-word at a public event.
Did you use the word? Or she was the one who used the word?
No, but if her point is that we are engaging in anti-queer slurs to the queer community, which we are a part of, I would consider the N-word to be a slur, and I hear a lot of black people using it. So I wonder if their cases would be thrown out of court if that ever happened. No, we weren't. But
I think you might actually have she used a slur. It is. Yeah. I mean, Steven Crowder got demonetized.
You're right.
Because he said that word, and he didn't say it in the context where he was trying to be hurtful. He just said it.
Yeah.
Well, he said it about somebody who was gay.
Right.
Somebody who describes themselves in many of those ways. Crowder.
And he probably describes himself as queer, that person.
Right. So actually, in reference to Crowder, the things he was saying about, I'm not going to say that guy's name, the guy from Vox. I don't want to give him the attention.
I know his name, but I can't think of it. I'd say it, but I can't think of it.
No, I for one, I don't want to start a brigade, but most people probably know who he is. But the point is, he did a segment where he called himself all of these names, and Crowder was responding saying, "Well, okay, Mr." And then would say a word, and they claimed that he was targeting him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, when it comes to New York, I think I've looked at I've looked over these laws before. I've actually done a couple of segments on them, and I've talked to some lawyers. Sounds like they violated your human rights by using that word against you, and then arguing that you were in violation of it. Imagine if that judge said to Candace Owens, "You're engaging in anti N-word behavior."
Sure.
Yeah, that would be a major controversy and everything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely would be. And the thing is too, to me, the biggest tragedy of the whole thing is that so many, as these when they do this, they don't just cancel your event. It becomes a story, and then those stories are used to cancel you in the future.
Right.
When you try to do another event in another city, and they Google you, and then they're like, "Oh, you have a history of going around the country with your anti-queer, your anti-queer show," and the truth is that I really would love for certainly every LGBT person, but even people who aren't, watch what we've done with WalkAway. We've done Black town halls, we've done Hispanic town halls, we've done LGBT town halls. Like I said, you can watch them on YouTube. But this is about providing more freedom, more opportunity, more choice to people. We don't if you don't want to walk away from the left, don't. I can't make you do it, but just be willing to listen to the reasons why I think that we're being manipulated, we're being used, we're being targeted, we're being lied to, we're being brainwashed in many respects. And if you agree with me, then just consider maybe making some different choices in your life. But I mean, why are we preventing people from hearing words?
Right, exactly.
No one has to go. I'm not going in anyone's house and putting a gun to their head. I'm throwing an event that they're free to come to of their own volition.
That's the problem. You're teaching people. You're breaking them out. They're telling you can't solve your own problems, and you're saying the inverse. You're saying the opposite. You can. Go out there and do your own thing. Don't listen to them. Just find your own truth. That's bad for them.
Right.
They don't want to lose cult members.
And it kind of goes back to the point I was making earlier about, can Republicans evolve? Why can't Republicans evolve if Democrats are allowed to evolve? I mean, the people on the left would say that, well, we're the ones who believe in, freedom and opportunity and all this stuff, and we're the ones protecting minority communities. Well, if you really believe in freedom and opportunity, then you have to be willing to let these minority communities go, because you don't own them. You can't clutch them. You can't grab them and imprison them. If you believe that they have choice and freedom, you have to be willing to let them go to the Republican Party or anywhere else that they want to go. You can't just hold them. And that's what we're trying to do.
But, it's ultimately about the individuals in those communities. There's a lot of polls that have come out showing Trump having record approval from the black community. And I think that's terrifying the Democrats, because you had Emerson, which is considered to be one of the most credible polls, saying that Trump's approval was 30%. Now, many polls are saying it's like 8 or 12, but Trump had like 3 or 4 polls showing him at around 30 or so percent. Rasmussen, they've consistently shown over the past several months that Trump's approval rating from likely voters in the black community is like 30 to 40%. Like, it's just insane numbers.
But we have to wait and see, because
Absolutely.
They were saying that in 2018 too, and the midterm elections did not show that at all.
Right.
So I don't hang my hat on any polls, whatsoever, but particularly, because that really affects, I think, it speaks to my effectiveness to walk away in what we're doing. I hope to God we see some significant movement from minorities, and I really believe that we will. I mean, the only crazy thing would be, if all of these minorities who've created walkaway stories don't vote, or if they do something stupid and change their mind or something. But I mean, if walkaway is a true indicator of what is going to happen in 2020, then I think that we're going to see a significant dent, and it's going to be glorious.
I think Trump's going to win. But don't get complacent. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.